So let's take a moment now to settle in and center ourselves.
We come into your presence, restful Father. We come into your presence, coming Son. We come into your presence, peaceful Spirit. May we and God be one. We come into your presence, restful Father. We come into your presence, coming Son. We come into your presence, peaceful Spirit. May we and God be one. We come into your presence, restful Father. We come into your presence, coming Son. We come into your presence, peaceful Spirit. May we and God be one.
And we come together tonight in the presence to learn, to share, to expand our consciousness, to enjoy ourselves, to have fun, to laugh. Because we know that when we are in the presence, we are in touch with our highest selves. And when we are in touch with our highest selves, we take that out into the world, which needs all the highest selves it can find right now. And we give thanks for the opportunity to be together, to have this conversation together tonight. And so it is. Amen. Well, good evening, Reverend Donna Apidone.
Nice to be here. We have 3 more of the 12 powers of man to talk about, or as I like to call them, the amorphous intangibles. 3 more, and they are wisdom, strength, and love. So it's an interesting conversation to come up.
It is an interesting conversation, and we've, we just took these in the order that they are supposedly assigned in the body, and so we've both been interested at which 3 came together, putting love and wisdom and strength together. So that's going to be probably part of our conversation as well.
Intuitively would not have put them together, but that is how they match the chakras.
It is. And I guess maybe I should answer this question before we get into our conversation. So what was the question that was asked of you last week?
The question was asked, should we try to make all of these equal? Should we be attracted to all of them and have some sort of a goal to have them equally distributed in our lives? Or is it appropriate for 1 or 2 to take precedence over others?
Okay, the short answer is that it is natural and right that 1 or 2 would be more prominent in your life, because whatever it is you relate to, it's like I was telling Reverend Donna, I guess I probably have a natural strength, so I don't need to go to that power to bring more strength into my life, where I need order, or I might need love. And so there are certain ones that attract my attention. And remember, these are energies. Okay, we are energetic beings. And I always think of there's this light up here, this light that is coming down into our bodies, which is what gives us our life. And when that light hits the top of our head in a certain way, just like we're like prisms. And so the light immediately starts to separate out, just like it would as a rainbow. When light hits a raindrop, the light beam splits and turns into in different frequencies, which is why you see the different colors. It would be the same thing as these energies, come into us, and some of us are just going to naturally be attracted to one more than the other. And yes, we want balance in our bodies, but if you try to work with all 12 powers, you're going to go nuts. That's just, it's just too much. And so it's finding what is it that helps you? What is it that gives you the most peace and the most focus? And you can change them out. But I kind of got stuck on 2 early in my learning of this when I was in my 20s, and those are the ones I use because those are the ones that just simply come to mind. And so And at the same time, if you wanted to expand your horizons, find another one to focus on to maybe enhance it, expand it.
Build it a little bit?
Yeah, but there's no rules here. That's the other thing, is there's no rules here. This is just a way to work with our energies, and we have to name things for them to make sense to us. If I say the presence is within me, that's really cool, but what do I do with that? It's so big. So if I break it down into smaller increments and call it order or power or love or wisdom or strength, I can work with that. My human brain can do something with that. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
As you're talking, it makes me think of the human body, because I'm not using this hand, I'm using this hand. I'm not using this toe, it's just resting. But all the parts are there. Right. And that's sort of what you're saying about all of these powers. They're all within us, but we're using different parts of them and different powers within us at different times.
And we're going to be more conscious of some than others.
Yeah. Which one would you like to be conscious of as we talk about it first?
Wisdom always comes up for me, but I don't know.
So
I love the word wisdom. Pardon?
You're so wise. It's so wise. What about wisdom? What do you like about wisdom?
Wisdom to me is comforting, because when you're in wisdom, there's something settled. There's something. Okay, for me, wisdom is just a knowing that I didn't have to work for. And so if wisdom strikes, I can be calm and peaceful because it's just there. And I didn't have to work for it. I didn't have to make it up. It's just there. It's that inner knowing that you don't question.
I love that phrase, if wisdom strikes. First of all, there's if, which is kind of interesting. Wisdom may or may not strike. And then the word strike. I never realized wisdom strikes. Fascinating. Learn more about each other every week that we do this. I learned that there is in the Talmud, in Judaism, talk of wisdom as the highest form. The highest form of wisdom is kindness. That's something to think about. The highest form of wisdom is kindness. And then as sort of a subcategory of that statement was some other talk about empathy and how that is connected to wisdom, which just sort of turned the whole subject for me. It turned the subject of empathy and kindness, and it turned the subject of wisdom into something new that I can look at in a different way.
Well, that makes wisdom completely and totally non-judgmental.
Yes, as it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I'm
just thinking that I don't think I ever thought about whether wisdom was judgmental or not, but that just makes it, it's like wisdom just is. Mm-hmm. It just is, and it's like it, and it's there, and it is immutable.
Well, then you're going to love this.
Okay.
Because I found from another source, somebody named the 6 pillars of wisdom. I didn't know wisdom had pillars either, but listen to this. The 6 pillars of wisdom, or so I've read on Google, I'm sure, Wikipedia, no doubt. Knowledge, understanding, prudence, counsel, instruction, and discretion. Now, we're not going to have time to go through all of those, but discretion really jumped out at me. Discretion in wisdom. Because in order to fully make use of my wisdom, I have to show some discretion.
You have to be fully present and in touch with the presence for that wisdom to be
Right.
active.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Huh. Who knew?
I'm not sure how prudence fits into wisdom. Any thoughts about that?
I have trouble with the word prudence because I always just think of this one character in a James Garner movie who was named Prudence, and she was a dingbat. And it's the only time I can ever think of that word. I have to really work at
But the highest form of wisdom is kindness.
Well, she was written as a dingbat. She was being exactly who she was supposed to be. I don't know. Prudence is. I have trouble with that word because because it speaks of act like a lady. That's stuff we got when our generation was younger.
Little white gloves. And,
Little white gloves and. Yeah, and the thing that I was told is a lady never stands up while she's smoking. Seriously.
You're right, that doesn't quite fit with the wisdom that we're thinking of.
No, it doesn't, and I don't think it has anything to do with prudence either.
Usually doesn't go this far downhill this soon. It usually
that means
takes
we
half
have
an
so
hour,
much room
but
to go back uphill that.
we'll work on that. The ability to apply knowledge was another definition of a spiritual wisdom, the ability to apply knowledge. Because we know a lot of stuff, not just facts. I mean, we have knowledge, but how we use it, wisdom makes sense with that.
Well, I mean, because for me, wisdom is about being calm. It's being about being centered. It's not necessarily thinking things through, but being calm and centered enough to allow that spirit to work through you. And maybe that's where I really come to, is that wisdom, for me, wisdom is spirit working through me out into the world.
Yeah.
It's not me doing it.
Right.
It's me allowing it to
Yeah.
come through.
And that's true with all of these. All of these 12 powers are not about us doing, but about us allowing. Yeah. What else do you know about wisdom?
Wisdom is it is acquired.
As in, with age comes wisdom?
With
that
age
kind
comes
of
wisdom.
acquired?
Well, honestly, I would say more with experience comes wisdom, because a person can become pretty elderly and not have a lot of wisdom, but with experience, but see, that experience has to be coupled with curiosity, with wanting to expand your consciousness. I don't think that you become wise overnight or accidentally. I think it's something that, even if we're unconsciously cultivating it, but I believe that we cultivate wisdom.
So it's cumulative.
I believe so. Yeah, for me it is, absolutely. I mean, when I was 26 or 27, and I was in this prayer group in a Unity Church in Phoenix, and everybody in that group was past 65, I'm sure. And one day this lady, she patted me on the knee and she said I was wise beyond my years. And I remember that because I really didn't, I still don't know exactly what she was seeing in me. You know, she was, but I assumed that what she was seeing was me allowing Spirit to work through me. I mean, I was 26 years old maybe. And so the only thing that I can think of is that whatever I had said in that prayer group, it was Spirit working through me. It wasn't, Deborah. It was something more than me, the higher self of me that she was looking at.
Well, in that regard, wisdom may be slightly different than some of the other 12 powers in that we are likely to notice it in someone else more than we see it in ourselves.
I agree. Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Plus, it's just, it's not becoming to say, I am so wise. It just doesn't sound good.
Well, when we're
But
usually
we
saying I'm so
recognize it.
wise, we're usually being sarcastic about ourselves because we just messed up. But to me, wisdom and inner knowing, that you just know it. There's no question. You don't even know where it came from. You just know. And to me, that is my primary definition of wisdom. It is Spirit working in you.
I also read a definition that it is an exercise in trusting the divine.
I don't know. To me, once you got to wisdom, you're not. I guess that trust is just there. When I start talking about trusting the divine, I'm thinking that I'm having to work to trust it.
But somebody may have to work to trust.
Right. But I think when true wisdom comes, you've been trusting. The trust is just there. It's just there. And so you're not really thinking about trusting, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You're not questioning.
Right.
That's it. You're not questioning.
So a person who isn't wise, what are they missing out on?
Peace. I mean, it's like if I can rely on the wisdom, then there's a lot of things that I know that I can let go of. And that inner knowing is telling me that that I'm okay, that it's okay. Whatever it is, it's okay. And even if I don't like what it looks like underneath or wherever it is, since there's no geography in consciousness, there's something else going on that we don't see and we don't understand. And perhaps that's also part of the wisdom, is to know that there's, appearances are this much, and then there's all of this that we don't see, we don't hear, we might feel, we might intuit, but it's not in front of our face like appearances. And so, yeah.
Should we move to strength? Is there anything we've missed on wisdom?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, let's move to strength then. Perseverance? Is that part of it?
Very definitely, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah. And also strength is the ability to stand to stand in your power and just be who you are no matter what is going on around you. It is standing in who you are in any one moment. And there's all this cultural things. I've never lived anywhere besides the United States. In fact, the Western United States, and I haven't traveled very much, and so I can only speak from the culture that I live in. But my generation grew up with how strong women have to be. Women are strong. Men are strong on the outside, and women are strong on the inside. I think that's part of the mythology. It's certainly not. We're not saying that's true, but that's kind of the mythology, right? Is that, women are hysterical, but at the same time, we're very, very strong. Because in the end, and it doesn't matter what gender you are, at some point, you're going to have to stand in your own self, in your own power, in your own, this is who I am. And that, to me, is real strength. What do you think strength is?
Well, you reminded me of a compliment when one woman says this about another woman in Eastern European culture. It's an incredible compliment for me to say, strong like bull.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the strength that a woman has that she admires in someone else. Also in Buddhism, it's strength is the ability to eliminate attachments, because attachments in Buddhism are to be eliminated, and strength allows you to do that.
Well, yeah, because again, it allows you to stand in your own energy and your own power and not be, relying on outside sources. And that doesn't mean that you reject outside sources. This whole thing about attachment. I had a friend who's Japanese, and she said that we don't really understand Buddhism. I mean, unless you've grown up in it, and we don't really understand it. But the idea of attachment is just that ultimately, what are you relying on? What's inside or what's outside? We need the outside world. We need each other. We need all this. Well, not all this stuff, but we need this world, because we're living in a material world, and at the same time, we have to be able to just be, okay, here I am, this is what's happening to me right now, and I'm okay, and I can do this. And at the same time, there was something going on in my life at one point, and I had someone, it was sort of the pat on the head kind of thing, and just, well, you're strong. And I just looked at him and says, I don't want to be strong anymore, I'm done, I'm tired. So it kind of depends on what how you look at strength. And
yeah, but when we were talking about attachments, though, I think of those also as our principles, or the opposite of our principles. The attachments are the things that bombard us and can distract us from our principles. But strength is the ability to hold on to those principles in all the right ways.
absolutely, this is who I am. This is what my principles are. This is me, and that's what you get. And this is what will carry you through, because if you're being swayed back and forth by whatever is coming your way, you can't ever make a decision. You can't ever get to wisdom, because you're changing your mind so much. You're just all over the place.
Stability, then.
Stability, yeah.
Is a big part of strength.
Steadfastness. That's another word that's often used. Yeah, steadfastness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the downside of strength? You mentioned, I don't want to be strong anymore.
Well, I think that the downside of strength would be not being able to ask for help. I'm okay. We again in our culture, I know so many people who are not good at asking for help. because I'm strong, I can do this. Pushing through to the point where you do yourself damage. The conversation, obviously we all know I had my hip replaced, and the conversation is I happen to have a very high tolerance for pain. Okay, so is that good or is that not good? Am I being strong or am I being stubborn? A certain amount of being able to handle pain is good because I don't suffer like some people might. At the same time, I will push through when maybe I should be taking better care of my body. Or I might not understand how bad it is because I am so used to just dealing with it. And so this when it comes back to kind of the wisdom, it was like, okay, this hurts. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to just push through? Am I going to take something to alleviate it? Or am I going to just sit down and just, where am I going to be strong in this situation? And each one of those is a different kind of strength, isn't it? The strength to ask for help, or the strength to just stop and help the body heal, or the strength to push through and possibly do more damage.
And yet the strength to get through pain, which you have the ability to do, that part of that strength is not anything you chose to do. You just happen to be a person who can tolerate pain in a different way than someone else can.
I think I actually developed when I was younger, but it wasn't intentional. I've had several conversations with some people about this whole thing during this particular event that I've gone through, and it's like, and the fact that there's other circumstances in my life that I've pretty much gone through this alone. I've had friends helping me, and what kind of strength does that take? Well, for me, I don't even think of it as a strength. It's that this is just who I am, this is how I do things, and I'm okay with where I am right now. And maybe that's another kind of strength, being okay with where you are right now in whatever the situation is. And I've had people mention, that's, well, you're so strong. It's like, well, I'm here now. What else am I going to do? Except be with it and do the best I can in the situation.
And yet you have reached that point and needed to comment on it to someone that you just sometimes don't want to be strong. Is it a choice?
No, it's not a choice. I mean, well, the thing is that, okay, I was probably in my 30s when they said that to me, and they were really being pretty condescending. And so it made me angry. Because it was really like, well, it was really almost a pat on the head and saying, you'll be okay, you're strong, And it's like, I don't, if this is what life means, I don't want to be strong. I think that's what I was saying, is I don't want any more of this stuff coming my way. Let's stop. I don't want to have to be strong in this way. Because there's that strength of dealing with adversity. And then there's just that strength of dealing with everyday life. And and being a spiritual being in a human body, that just takes some strength on its own, folks. You all know that. How do I live an everyday life and live as a spiritual being at the same time? And we so often think of those have to be two separate things. Okay, I'm going to go to church and I'll be a spiritual being, and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to go to my job and I'm going to do my other thing over here, where really the whole idea and really what we teach here is how to be one, how to be a unified being. And that takes strength of, so here's this, what is there? Strength of mind, strength of body, strength of
character.
What else? I mean, so there's different aspects, I would say, of strength.
Yeah.
You can have a strong, and the whole word strength or strong. How many movies are there out now about all of these superheroes? Yeah. And they all have to do with people, with beings with extraordinary strength of some sort or another. Why do we need that in our society? What is going on there?
That can be a good thing. I mean, in a way, we can look at those characters and say, I don't need to be like this, that kind of strong, or I don't need to do supernatural things. But then again, what what about the little kids who should learn to do supernatural things? Who can say, oh, look, that superhero is really nice to people, and that superhero helps feed people. Those superheroes bring out things in the people who need to hear them.
And so they bring out different kinds of strengths.
Yeah.
See, okay, so this what just come to me is that every one of these 12 powers is a different kind of strength.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know if, so would you call love strength? But yeah. Because a strength is what is it? What is it? Steadfast? Is it an ability? And if it's the ability to stand strong, stand tall, be steadfast, be who you really are. That probably takes more strength than anything, is to sit here and say, this is who I am, and I don't care how weird you think that is. This is who I am.
Well, as soon as you say strength allows you to be who you are, then I have to know who I am.
Well, there is that.
Which is its own kind of strength.
Yeah, there's this thing that has happened over the years. The people who, will come to classes or whatever, and they'll get into it and they'll really be into it. And then there's the people who come for a little bit and then they go away. And there are other people who come in and say, my boyfriend is so smart and everything, but he won't do any of this stuff. And it's like, the truth is that we all have a different ability to look within and to discover who we are. And some people are not the least bit interested in finding out who they are or what's within them. Other people, and the most common thing that I find when people they start to dabble and then they get frightened and they leave, is because they're afraid to look within, because they're afraid of two things. Either they're going to find out they're a really horrible person, or they're going to find out that there's nothing there. And so they back off from it. And the really strong people are the people who are like sitting in this room, who are willing to open up and see what's there. And that's wisdom, strength, and love right there, loving yourself enough to be able to say, who am I really? And be brave enough. And that's, maybe there's another thing about, bravery in the strength. I'm brave enough to take this walk and find out who I really am, no matter what that might show me.
So how about love?
You talk about love for a bit. I'm curious what you have to say.
I will do that. There's so much. Where do you start? There's so much to talk about with love. But I have an interesting quote from a person who is just one of my favorite authors. His name is John O'Donohue. And if you know his work, you understand he passed a number of years ago. He wrote a lot about Celtic wisdom. And a lot of that is based in love. And I knew that I always wanted to know more about John O'Donohue. I had heard a little bit about him. I'd read a little bit about him. And I knew that I always wanted to know more and read more. And I was visiting some friends in Virginia Beach at the Edgar Cayce Center in Virginia Beach. And they had a book sale. And we're all readers, so we were looking at the books, and there it was. It jumped out at me. The Book of Celtic Wisdom by John O'Donohue. I'm so happy to have that. And this is what he said about love. The soul needs love as urgently as the body needs air. The soul needs love as urgently as the body needs air. The whole book is like that. It's astonishing. It's really good. So that just knocked me off my chair.
I mean, the thing is, again, in our culture, is when you say love, people automatically go to the romantic love.
Hearts and flowers.
hearts and flowers, and gooiness, gooey, ooey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, seriously. I mean, and love is an entity. Love is a being. I mean, I've had an experience where I was transported into this place of just pure love being poured into me, and it's a being. It's so very real, and there is no judgment. It's not kissy facey. It's such an overwhelming energy that you just melt.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and so that is love is what we are.
Love is what we are. Yeah.
We just forget.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you feel love coming at you, the emotion makes you cry a lot of times. And that's how you know. That's the physical manifestation of what you just said. The other thing, Houston Smith, who wrote The World's Religions, the world's religions are so fascinating to read about and to study. When I got to the chapter on Christianity, I thought, what's he going to say about Christianity? And what he said is that it really isn't about Jesus and what he did or what he said. Christianity, the foundation of Christianity is love. Oh, well, yes, of course it is. But you get distracted by all the Jesus stuff sometimes, and you forget the foundation is love. So having him lay it out there like that for me made a big difference.
Yeah, there was an Episcopal priest in my hometown. He in the 60s, and he stood up there one day, and I can't remember. I think he was talking about the New Testament, and he said, "You can replace the word God throughout the entire New Testament with the word love." And, it is the presence. And whatever you call it, God, the presence, what it really is love. It is the primal energy from which we all spring. And we get so caught up as, okay, I'm going to unconditionally love you. Go do the dishes. I mean, the whole idea of unconditional love is, to me, almost already puts a condition on it. Because my condition is I'm going to love you unconditionally.
Right, yeah.
And so and the intention is pure, the intention is good, but we get ourselves so tied up in trying to make these things be a certain way that we get confused.
And if you listen to enough love songs, you really get confused, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting thing happened to me a number of years ago. We all know the Beatles songs, and we've sung them since we were whatever height we were when we first heard them. And we sing them and we go through the words, and sometimes we forget what the words mean because we've heard them so many times. We've sung them so many times. And I was putting together a service about love with a friend of mine, and she was the one who picked the music, and she picked All You Need Is Love. Of course she did. What else would you pick? So we were listening to it, getting ready for the service, and one of the lines jumped out at me that I've sung a million times. You've heard it a million times. But all of a sudden I thought, there's nowhere you can be that isn't where you were meant to be. I love that revelation. And of course, it's followed by, it's easy. Because of course, something like that shouldn't be hard. Something like that can't be hard. If all you need is love, why would there be anything difficult about that? Of course, it's easy. And of course, that song has been in my face for as long as I can remember, and I never bothered to really hear it before. It makes you want to go back to some of these old songs and listen to them again and find out what else is there that was in your face all along that you never noticed.
And yet you will have someone say, what do you mean it's easy? I'm just, it's love. We live in this crazy, complicated world right now. It's always been crazy and
Is it
complicated.
complicated, really?
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
but the thing is, we're living in interesting times. And how, and then well, how do you get to the love there? How do you get to letting go of all of those other emotions? And the deal is that love is not an emotion. It is a feeling. It is a beingness. But it's not a judgment. Now, and I watch couples. We have some couples here at SLC who have been together for. I honest to God, I can't tell you how many. I think lifetimes they've been together. They just seem like they just came together and will always be together. And I don't see ooey gooey love between them anymore. I'm sure that's how they started. But there is something between them that glue, that the kind of love that they carry now after being together 50 or 60 years is what the kind of love we're talking about. That's just there. It is. And they probably have developed the wisdom about their relationship through, but the kind of love, I would doubt if any of these two I'm talking about would really be talking about romantic love anymore, because they've been together so long. It's this they have grown into, and maybe on some level we have to grow into the love that we're talking about, because we come into this world and we're all love and happiness, and then we start to forget. The memories of where we came from fade, and we get programmed. And then we get to learn love all over again. And there's a difference between learning about love and learning love.
Do you want to explain that?
I can't. All
Okay.
I know is that this is what has come to me, is that I've actually kind of say learn love, not to love, but learn love, because it's just such an energy, a beingness that I couldn't learn about it because it's not something you can't learn about it because it's not out here. Real love.
Because it's an amorphous intangible.
It's an amorphous intangible. You betcha. An AI. Yeah. It's an AI. Oh, that's scary. Okay, it's an amorphous intangible. But what we do is we go back to the other powers. We go to wisdom. Wisdom is something that we can kind of describe. We can describe strength. We really cannot actually describe love.
But you do observe a lack of love. You can observe love or a lack of love, even if you can't quite describe it or explain it.
Right. Yeah. 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 You feel it, and you know it. Because you can walk up to somebody and you can feel that love. I had an experience on Sunday night. I went to a restaurant and I was just, waitress came up. She was this extraordinary person, and she just oozed love. She just was, the stuff was just coming off of her. And I had my leg out like this, and she kind of touched my foot, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. It came out of my mouth. I said, I just had surgery, so I was kind of stretching my leg." She said, "Oh, my husband's a physical therapist, and I was a CNA," and we got to talking about surgery, and it was just the love coming out of her. And I said something, and again, I don't know why I'm telling this lady this stuff, and I said, "Well, this side kind of hurt more than the one I did in May," and she said, "Well, of course." She said, "The time of year you do it's going to make a difference, because when it's cold, you're going to think it hurts more." And I looked her straight in the eye and I said, "I love you." And the love coming off of her, there was no personal stuff. It was just the love coming off of her. And she says, "And you're not going to hurt as much now that you know this." And she was right. She got a good tip. But that was, so altogether, you're in a restaurant for maybe half hour, 45 minutes, depending on how fast the food comes and how fast you eat. So my encounter with her was probably a 10-minute encounter altogether. And yet that woman's going to stick with the love that she exuded. and continues to exude is part of me now, because she was just there. It was just coming off of her.
So from all of that you've said, I want to address two things. The first is, it's easy.
In that case, it was. Absolutely.
In that case, it was.
Yeah.
But one of the best teachers I've had in my life would call me on that. If I ever said, it's hard, he'd say, what if it was easy? If I'm telling you something's hard, man, I want you to know that it's hard. And I want you to feel for me that it's hard. And if you say, but what if it's easy? It just ruins my whole thing, that I'm doing there. But he's absolutely right. Why are we looking at stuff like it's hard? Why are we saying stuff is hard when it isn't? Why are we saying we struggle? Somebody said, I'm struggling with what to wear to that party. Really? What if it's all easy? What if it's all easy? And that's why that line is in that song over and over again. We're bringing all this stuff on ourselves. What if it's easy? And it is. It's very easy. But I'm not done yet. Hold on a minute. The other one is, how do we love in this world? You mentioned that earlier. How do we release the craziness that we're seeing around us and not let that bog us down? How do we look at everything with love? Well, first of all, it's easy if you let it be. And second, that's why we're here. That's the only reason I'm here. It's the only reason you're here, is to love each other. So if I look at the world and all of its troubles, if I look at the world and say, man, this is really messed up, I don't like this at all, I've made it worse. So if you've got all these people throughout the world saying this is really messed up, what energy are we using? What energy are we emitting? How are we making it any better by saying that? What if we made it easy? What if we loved? What if we found something in everyone, in every situation, that we could love, whether it's empathy, whether it's compassion, however you define love in that situation. And I know it's really easy to kind of look around the world and say, yeah, I love everybody except that one over there who I really don't like. But what if you did? What if it was easy? How can we make it easier for ourselves every day? How can we be better in the world? If that's the reason we're here, if we're here to love, you have to ask yourself how you're doing. I have to ask myself that every day.
Well, and I think one of the ways to make it easy is to change your focus and look at your everyday life and stop looking way out there. Yes, way out there is going to be happening, and yes, on some level, we need to know what's going on. But if I'm so distracted by out there, I'm not going to be able to love you or you or you or you, And what's in front of me? You're the people in front of me, and if I can't bring my focus back down to that, it's like, where am I? Standing in my own space, and knowing that you're the people who need love. I'm a person. We all need love, and so when we start to give it to each other at this level. And then you can start to go out and, out farther and farther. But you have to start at home, so to speak, in your own heart and with your own, and keep your, you can stand on top of the mountain and look at, oh my God, over there, when there's all of these beautiful things right in front of you.
It's easy.
It can be. It can be if we let it.
Yeah.
That's part of the song, isn't it? If we let it.
So.
Yeah. But again, it's, there's the wisdom of, I think part of wisdom is knowing what's important. What's important in your life.
The wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. And also the wisdom to know that worrying and carrying on and being angry is detrimental to you and doesn't change anything on the outside. And that comes back to wisdom. It also comes back to strength, because the strength that we need to change our focus. It's pretty hard when you're being distracted by many, many things like what's going on now, for however you see that. I have to go, okay, where do I want to focus? What's important? What's important? And what can I do? I mean, that's the other part. I can't affect something that's going on in, some other country. I can affect...
Energetically, you can.
Well, energetically, but only if I am paying attention to this life and doing what I need to do in this life. If I'm not doing my work here, then again, yeah, that effect is going to go there, but it's not going to be the effect that we want.
So now we understand more about why, in terms of energy and chakras, why wisdom and strength and love are on very much the same plane.
Right. So, love is here, and strength and wisdom, they're all in this area of the body, And sometimes I think, okay, so we've located them in the body, but it's not like they're stuck there. It's just that's kind of the way our bodies react to them. And that's a whole other conversation, and I don't think we even need to go there. So,
but we could ask for some questions.
We could.
Okay. Patty has a microphone, so if you have a question, raise your hand and let her run over to you.
So to me, it's not really a question. I think that as far as love, what I found out is that I have to love me. That's my major job in this planet. And it was a hard lesson. But if I don't love me, I don't love anybody. And my life is worthless.
Absolutely. It's like what the flight attendant tells you. Put your oxygen mask on first before you help the person next to you, right? Love yourself first before you can give it to anyone else. Good observation.
I'm the one that asked the question about opening everything. And I don't have the book, so I'm looking at the picture. I didn't bring my thing. And I'm assuming, in my own little way, that these are the chakras. Is that true? Or are these...
It is the chakras with an expanded... Okay, so we hear about the 7 main chakras, but we have chakras in our hands. I mean, there's chakras. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what Fillmore was doing, is he was attaching them to chakras.
Centers.
Yeah, the energy centers of the body, yeah.
Okay, good.
There are more than just the main 7, and that's what he was doing, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And so my question about wanting them all open was, as far as what I believe about chakras, is that you have all of you when they're all open equally, and we're using different ones at different times. So it's being integrated and having access to all parts of yourself. Yeah?
That's a better answer than I gave.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, Kathy. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Here's a question.
Ian has a question.
Thank you, ladies. So I've been listening to everything that you've been talking about today, and I really liked the idea of the entry of the light and the prism sort of pushing through to gain access to the rest of these powers. And it dawns on me that I have a tendency, maybe sort of a default mechanism to block some of that off. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, and that's not what my question is. But I'm wondering if maybe this sort of, joining link to all of these access points would be sort of my willingness to stop blocking those things off. There's this idea in Kabbalah that like all people are sort of these conduits, part of like this spiritual connectivity, right? And like some people are sort of superconductors, like Jesus, Buddha, so on and so forth. I don't want to be that. I just want to be open. And I'm wondering if you have any tips or tricks, mantras, methods for accessing a bit more of that willingness to stop blocking. I feel like there's an effort required on my part to do that, but I'm not really sure what the actionable items are. And certainly, I don't really know how I block those things, but I tend to. And I'm curious if you've run into, I don't know, exercises to alleviate. Thanks.
The first thing I would say is just choose one area that you feel like you're blocking. Don't try to work on them all at once. So wherever you feel like you're blocking, whatever that is, however it manifests for you, choose one and work on that, because the thing is that when you change one thing, everything else starts to change too. It's like in your living room, you move the couch. Oh, well, I've moved the couch. Okay, this chair needs to go over here. Oh, well, with this chair over here, then this plant needs to be over here, and oh, I need to move this picture over here. So before you've known it, just by moving the couch, you've ended up redecorating the entire room. And so you start with one thing, and you don't try to do it all at once, and just say, what's the, and maybe write it down and say where you feel like you're blocking. And just look at that one thing, and then, maybe write an affirmation about it. Here's a trick, because it's denial and affirmation, but you have to come up with your denial, you have to have your affirmation first, because it's like, okay, I'm going to write my affirmation, and then when you write the affirmation, all of your back talk shows up. It says, these are all the reasons why my affirmation won't work. That's where you're stuck. That's where you're, that's where you're blocking. But I mean, you can meditate on almost anything, anywhere, but A, trying too hard, but B, trying to do it all at once, that just doesn't work. Pick one area. Just pick one area. And it's amazing when you change one little thing, how it's just like a chain reaction. Have you experienced that, right? Just, yeah.
And remember, when you rearrange the furniture, if it's dark in the room, you're going to trip over that stuff. But when your light is on, you're going to see where all the furniture is and where you've moved it, and you won't trip over it. And keeping your light on. And that's my compliment to you right there, is that your awareness is already there. You're not saying, everything's fine, I'm good. You're saying, I have some blockages. What do I do? Congratulations.
And also, don't make yourself wrong for being there. We all have blockages. Every one of us, we all have, and so you're wanting to open up and, and shine more light onto yourself that's an amazing, amazing thing. So.
And you've just shown wisdom, strength, and love in saying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Ian. Okay, so I think we're ready to move on. Next week, we are talking about order, release, and life. And release is kind of interesting because originally they called that elimination, and because of the part of the body that it is located in. But we now talk about release. So order, release, and life. And I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion as well.
It should be. They all are.
Yeah, they all are. We're having fun up here. I hope you're having fun out there. So, and then I think what is next? Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm okay. Everyone here has been here before, so welcome if you're a new person. But I know you're all been here before, so we'll go on to the offering, and it is our opportunity to support Spiritual Life Center. And if you're watching online, you can text SLC Love to 44321, or you can go to slcworld.org and click on the donate button. And of course, you can always mail in an offering if you would like to. But for those of you here tonight, let us just say our prayer, our offering prayer together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Thank you, 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 thank you. Thank you.